Hey.
Hi guys, welcome back. Today is the 30th of June and it's day 102 of our lockdown. So officially, I think that the UK has been in it for more than 100 days now, but we just edged them out and went in a little bit early, but 102 days. Which, thankfully, sort of looking at I've literally just been looking at the graphs to kind of go, oh, we haven't actually done sort of an update on figures and stuff. The graphs are not great, but thankfully, since lockdown's been implemented and things seem to have all sort of gone down, they've been quite stable for a while, which I think suggests that under lockdown measures, this is sort of the rate of infection that we can expect. Which is manageable. Obviously, though, we are on the edge of releasing some lockdown measures, so we'll go into that in a bit, no doubt. But yeah, before that, so we'll just give you a little update on what we've been up to today. Chris has been very productive because we've mentioned that we've been working on one of our videos. Obviously, Chris writes them and ropes me into acting some of the bits or speaking some of the bits. But there's been one that has been sort of hanging over our head for ages.
Yeah. Well, because most of the ones we've done have largely been kind of talking heads back and forth, and this one was a little bit more ambitious, and had lots of different parts to film, and sometimes it was dependent on weather or conditions and lighting, as if we could film them, and also just having done that, then there was issues with getting the edit all finished and just.
And we couldn't cut your hair then until after we'd actually finished it, because it was like, well, actually, all of this is sort of supposed to be, as lockdown progresses, it wouldn't make sense if suddenly you've got really short hair. Although I did notice, even, because one of the earliest scenes that we filmed was quite a long while back. And actually, the eagle-eyed among you will notice that there is a noticeable difference in hair length, but just not this drastic.
That's okay. That's kind of supposed to be something I filmed earlier anyway.
Yeah, so, no, but it's just sort of amuses me how long we've had that in the works, that you can actually see your hair growing.
Yeah, because you get used to it being long and you forget how, like at the time when lockdown started, I thought it was getting a bit long, and it's, so much shorter in that clip. But anyway.
Yeah. This is not a Relly Daniel, by the way. I realise this looks like I'm sort of having a child's glass of pop. I only had gin and tonic in, and I wasn't in a gin and tonic mood, so like a child, I've taken the edge off it with some grenadine to make it taste a bit sweeter. But I realise it does look like I'm drinking proper, like, pop.
Which would be fine. I don't know why you're so defensive. I'm
one of the ones that were the Panda Pops, that's what I'm thinking of. Like, well, just because it's so red.
Yeah, but you could just be having a cherryade. It wouldn't be a problem. I don't think people would judge you for it.
I think if people see me drinking a red drink and it's not red wine, they might be very confused.
I got handed a drink sort of approximately that colour in a pub once because I asked for a red wine. And they gave me a glass that looked a lot like that, and it had it was very sweet, and it had a sort of sticky, almost viscous quality to it, and they told me it was a mid-red.
That's not red wine, whatever they've given you there.
I had no idea what I was drinking. It was very sweet.
Did you drink it?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think I'd actually drink a red wine if it came and it looked like that. But if, I guess, sweet and red, they've given you, I don't know.
Just a big glass of aftershock
like
or something.
Grape pop or something.
I think it was some sort of boot. Like what are those little shots that you get, like
aftershocks and things.
Yeah,
like
things
the little,
like
brightly coloured shot ones.
Yeah, just a whole wine glass full of them, I reckon. But
bargain.
But yeah, we filmed this sketch, and it's kind of about
staying in,
being stuck indoors, which I realise is odd timing, really, as for a lot of people it feels like restrictions are starting to end, and like I say, we kind of had this in the works, and we're trying to get it out a bit sooner than we did, but a few things got in the way. But I think it's still kind of relevant because people are still, some people are still screening or self-isolating or just trying to be a bit cautious. And even if you are people who are starting to go back to work or be a bit more out and about, then I mean you get what it's about. You can relate. You can understand. You've been there for the past few months. It's not.
Even though we're allowed to be out and about, it's kind of encouraging reasons to stay indoors in a pretty tongue-in-cheek way. But yeah, it's just it has been a long time in the running, this one, but I do like how it's come out. Actually, we've sort of had to, again, it's one of the reasons why it was sort of a bit more ambitious, but we sort of had to get people remotely to record sound clips and things like that, which actually I think my friend Jo had quite good fun with. I've mentioned her a couple of times. She's going through a bit of a rough time at the moment, so like literally just screaming obscenities into her phone as though enraged. I think probably was a little cathartic. So yeah, she did a good job. But yeah, I think it came out really good in the end. I find I have a mixed bag with how I feel looking at my talking head ones. Like, I think sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, that's good, and other times I'm a bit more self-conscious about it, and I think it probably goes on how I was feeling on the day when I recorded it. But I think I remember mentioning the day that we recorded that, I'd been a little bit anxious, and actually I recorded it sort of sat roughly here, and I just remember sort of you leaning in and being like, you're right, you're ready to go. I'm like, yeah, I'm just a bit anxious, and I think I can see it. Hopefully it doesn't come across to anybody else, but I feel a bit sort of,
yeah, not to talk the new video down at all, but I felt a bit like watching my performances back, just going a bit like, like I'm not sure it's my best, and I think, but I don't know if that does show to other people watching it. I think part of it is just associations of like, when we finally got round to filming these particular chunks of talking heads, neither one of us was in a particularly good place.
No,
and it didn't,
we've had a bit of the last few days have actually been lovely, but we've had a bit of a rough week. I think both of us have. I think like both of us getting to like a bit of an anxious place at the same time has probably taken a bit more of a toll than it normally would, because we've both kind of like, usually if I'm, and it's usually me, but if I'm a bit anxious, you can sort of help distract me, or sort of you can sort of help me take my mind off it, or comfort me through it, and kind of. But if we're both there, then we both kind of talk about, like, it's still fine, it's still healthy, but we both kind of talk about the same things, and then and another thing, but it kind of feeds itself back over and over again.
It's like if you're paranoid, you need to be with someone
to calm you down.
Like, no, don't worry about it, it's fine. If you're with another paranoid person, you just kind of stoke it a bit.
Yeah, I think we're both fanning each other's flames a little bit. Thankfully, I think sort of, although there's still a few like things up in the air there, I think like we've been able to enjoy the last few days, and there's been some stuff bubbling under, but I think maybe we've sort of worked through it a bit. But yeah, they're things that are a bit complicated and not sort of relevant to sort of lockdown or any of that. So if you know us personally, I'm sure we'll be willing to have a chat. But yeah, it's nothing that we need to go into on here, really.
No. Something I have noticed, right, and it's not that it's very dramatic, but when I had very long hair, it was quite heavy. And I could kind of sleep on it, and it would just kind of hang down regardless, because it's quite thick and heavy.
Yeah.
But now, if I sleep on my hair,
you gain
little tufts of, where I've slept on the hair, and it's sticking out a bit funny. So that was a nice thing about having long hair. But that said, and obviously part of the reason I wanted it cut was it was so hot.
So now it's freezing.
And now
it's gone. It's not freezing, but it's
not.
Gone
sort of breezy.
It's certainly
and
not garden
cool.
sitting weather.
No. So. Timing is everything, but it's nice to have it out of my eyes anyway. Irrespective, I'm not complaining. It's fine.
It was getting out of hand, but I did like it. But yeah, that's fine. We've talked about your hair enough. We've talked about my hair enough.
I just got distracted.
No, sorry, that wasn't criticising you, but it was just people watching don't give a shit.
when we're doing this, we can see ourselves.
Yeah, it's probably the most we spend looking at our reflections over the course of a day.
So you do notice things.
It does kind of breed a little bit of vanity actually doing this.
Does it?
Well, maybe not vanity actually. It's somewhere between vanity and insecurity. But like I've started doing my makeup a lot better since actually sort of staring at my made-up face for any length of time. I think I've started doing it slightly different for camera and that kind of thing. Like I was
on the kitchen sink the other day, kind of
which
streamed
I don't think I put the link to.
That we talked about. Oh, well, I'll put it in today.
I will put it in today.
Well, this streamed chat show that I was on the other day, and I made the point on there. I think like everyone in lockdown has been much more. Have kind of been prioritising visible hygiene.
Yeah.
Like you don't want your hair to look dirty, but maybe you're not putting your deodorant on as much as you would because, if you're on a Zoom meeting...
It's only me that can smell you.
It's only Ellie.
I can't really criticise. It's probably good that I have so many baths for my fibro, because if I was only like washing for hygiene, I'd probably have got quite gross.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I do still sometimes wash.
He does,
I
he
do want to
does.
make that clear. But yeah, it's just things like you go, oh, I've got to brush my teeth. I'm supposed to be on that Zoom meeting. Oh well, the teeth can wait till after.
Yeah.
I'll just make sure I look presentable for now, you know.
And all of these things were always like in PJs or jogging bottoms or pants, because it's just like, well, it's only the bits that they can see. It's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all right, isn't it? I guess everybody's getting more into wearing like comfortable clothes all the time. Like I wore a bra the other day because we were doing the live blog, and I was like, okay, I'll wear a bra, because I do wear bras, but they're usually sports bras. These are, if you see me in these, I've got about 12 of them in different colours, mostly, well, in 2 different colours, either black and grey or purple and light purple. And I've got loads of them, and they're basically the only bras that are comfortable. So I live in them, if any bras at all. But the other day I wore a proper bra. I didn't like it.
Oh, no.
Oh, God. With it, like, literally within minutes of finishing the blog, I'm like, yep, that's coming off. Oh, so I just don't know how I'm going to get back to, like, dealing with... Because there's certain habits I don't want to go back to. And wearing uncomfortable bra.
I'm with you. I've
also, though, I probably don't fit my bras as well as I used to, because I have got fat in lockdown.
But I'm with you, though, because there've been days like last week when it was super, super hot. Well, I was just, you know, sitting in the house... in my boxer shorts, nothing else on.
I can attest to that.
And, like, just thinking, if I wasn't in furlough now, I'd be having to put on a shirt and a tie and like...
walk a 40-minute walk to
work
town.
trousers,
then catch a train and then walk another, like, 15 minutes on the other end. You would not be happy.
No. Oh, I'd be miserable. I don't
And you'd be getting up at about 6 o'clock in the morning to do... I guess at least, at the time you'd be getting up, it wouldn't be too hot on the way in, because you do have to get up quite early, because it's a fair old walk, as I say. So what time do you have to, like, if you have to be in work at, say, 8, you're having to, like, leave the house at, what, like, 6:45?
I don't even remember.
No.
I would, like, what time did I have to be there? I had to be there by 8:20.
Right.
On the early shift. So I would get up about 6:15, I think.
Yeah.
To kind of leave the house for 7, to be at the station for about 7:30, or somewhere between 7:30 and 8, to then catch a train, so that I still had time to walk. Yeah. Specsavers at the other end at 8:20. Yeah.
Can't do your job from home though, so even if all of the world changes to accommodate these things, that will still be a job that you need to do where the customers are.
Doing a job from home, don't I?
Yeah.
That's what I need to do.
Yeah. I can't work from home, so maybe if you can get a job where you can, that would be ideal.
If anyone wants to pay me to make amateurish videos.
You should look into freelance copywriting, because you are such a good writer and you're also quite a good proofreader, and like your stuff that you do, like your like What Culture articles and stuff, are really well written.
Well, thank
you. I just think that's something more your bag anyway, really, isn't it? Like,
check those out at whatculture.com, where my friend Tim Goodings has also written some articles about comics and things. No, he's a friend of mine from comedy, but he's also written for What Culture.
I will put the links to, because on What Culture,
like
they don't really they don't really like sort of give you top billing on the actual article. It's just kind of the article, and you have to actually scroll quite far down to find out who wrote it, because they fit in lots of other links. It's all very clickbaity. But you can search by author. So I will put the search by author links to both yourself, and you'll have to remember Tim Goodings. So I'll put those in case you're interested. They're not all wrestling stuff. You've done some music stuff and
ones,
some
as
film
I say, Tim, and some video game ones even.
Yep.
I think Tim has mostly done comic book ones, but he might have done other ones.
That might be one that, like, particularly like our friends Kim and Joe, who joined us for the live stream the other day, might be into. So yeah, I think like there's stuff that you can do.
Joe
and I think
would be very good at that as well.
Joe would be brilliant at that.
Joe
and actually, we should have a chat with him about it.
Yeah.
Because it is just sort of contribute. You just submit, and then if they like it, they take it. So
I've
no
read
harm
some
in doing
things that Joe's written about comic books, and he's very articulate, and the writing's good, but also his passion for the books comes across.
Absolutely.
Really well.
I would link to his work, but actually I think most of the writing stuff I've seen of his is on his private Facebook, so I won't be able to link to that. But I will nag him to actually set up some sort of blog or website where he can put his writing, and if he does that, I will link to it.
Yes.
And we will tell you, because yeah, he's a very good writer, and to be encouraged. But yeah, so we should probably talk about some. Well, actually, another thing that we did today. So oh god, we've nearly finished The Boys. I really like. We've got one episode left, and crikey, I was so upset when I realised there was only one episode left, because I am so into this show. It's actually like, so there's 8 episodes in total. I am praying to all that is holy that there will be further series.
Yes, me too.
Because there's no way they're going to conclude all of these storylines anyway, but I'm sure it's going to come to sort of a gripping climax, but there's going to be like what happens next feelings. But there's been some hard hitting. There's been some bits that have been difficult viewing, but it's all done in this quite sort of, like, it is hard hitting, but it is still sort of superhero and sensational.
Sort of hyper real.
So yeah, you can sort of divorce yourself from it a little bit, but actually a couple of I can't think of anything else that we've watched together where as many times I've been quite so oh my god, like, and actually there are a few quite gruesome bits where there's injuries and stuff, and you're like, oh, that looks painful.
There's a character in it called the Deep.
Yeah.
Who in the first episode,
he should be called the Creep.
Yeah.
There we go.
And he basically commits sexual abuse.
Oh, he's a sex offender, basically.
Like, he's,
spoiler alert, but it literally happens quite early on.
Episode 1.
Yeah.
And like, he is a bad guy, clearly, but like, I mean,
some of the stuff that's going on later is actually very well intentioned, and I almost feel sorry for him.
And you do just go like, oh god, I almost feel bad for this guy.
Almost.
And then we won't go into that.
No, we won't say why. I don't feel sorry for him. I feel sorry for the sort of unwitting consequences to his actions that are bad.
Bit in the episode today with that woman.
Oh, yeah, actually, I did feel sorry for him.
Yeah.
It was a bit goes around, comes around, but... actually, I would put sort of... It does put quite... Like, you know, you watch these things on telly and there's loads of sort of viewer discretion advised, and like in the States, they have like the different letters for the different things. This does have all of them. Like, literally, there's a log old list. So it's like nudity, drug use, violence, sort of adult content. I don't know what adult content is if it isn't nudity and sexual activity, but you know, all of the stuff.
All the boxes are ticked.
And sometimes you sort of think, oh, that's just sort of covering its back and it's not going to be that bad. It is quite extreme in all of those cases, and actually some of the sort of sexual content is quite uncomfortable viewing. But it's not always sort of too Me Too-ish. But at times it is. But actually, even sometimes when it's sort of consensual, it's still quite uncomfortable, and it's. But like, it's so the storytelling is so captivating, and I'm so invested in all of the characters, including the real wrong-uns. Like, I think. Sorry to keep going on, but like, I don't think I have hated any character as much as I hate Homelander, and I have watched Game of Thrones. I think I hate him more than Ramsay Bolton and Joffrey. And for those of you who watch Game of Thrones, that's quite a feat. He doesn't know. But, I thought I couldn't hate a fictional character more. And actually, I did, like, my hatred for Homelander, he wasn't great to begin with, but it's gradually getting worse and worse. He's awful. He's absolutely awful. And the interesting thing about that is he is playing essentially a very Captain America type, Captain America meets Superman type character.
Noble, none more heroic,
none
more American.
Yeah,
so
literally like stars and stripes sort of suit, and flies, like sort of very Superman-esque, and his public persona is very all-American, good egg. And it's interesting that is known to everyone who actually knows him, that's basically all spin, and he's awful. But there's so many interesting characters in it, and it's so multifaceted that everyone's story is really interesting. And there's some characters that we haven't seen a lot of, and even those few characters in it are kind of throwaway. It's really well written. I'm actually quite tempted to get the graphic novel and read the graphic novel, which normally I haven't done that with any of the Marvel comics, because I kind of gone, well, I'm sure these films are just brilliant, but actually I kind of want to know more backstory, because I enjoyed it that much that I might encourage you to add that to your collection.
Is that the system?
Yeah.
I did have at one point the first graphic novel of the boys that it was based on. And
is that what you were just looking for then? You probably should have explained why you just left.
Yeah, well, I was doing a bit of fact checking. I don't know where it's gone. But I know that it was written by a guy called Garth Ennis, who created the series. He also created The Preacher.
Oh,
which,
okay. I have watched a bit of that.
Okay, I haven't watched any of the TV series. I know that's been made into a TV show.
Yeah.
I've, again, read the first
I
of
really
liked
liked the sort of idea of it. I think I watched the first 2 or maybe 3 episodes. I didn't hate it, but I didn't have that urge to watch another one, if you know what I mean. I was kind of like, yeah, okay. And I've never gone back to it. So maybe it's one of those things that maybe it needs another watch. Maybe I just wasn't in the right mood for it.
Well, maybe...
I liked the story. I like because the main actor in Preacher, I can't remember his name, but he's a very good actor. He's very captivating. And actually, it's an interesting premise.
Maybe we need to persevere. But it's written by a guy, both of them, as I say, written by a guy called Garth Ennis. He's also written for iconic Marvel characters, The Punisher and Ghost Rider.
I see.
And he's kind of throughout his work, like ultra-violence is kind of something of a theme. But, you know, like, I think it's true of as in The Boys, you know, there's the danger of that sort of stuff is just there for kind of shot for shock's sake. But
yeah,
The Boys
doesn't
is
feel
so
like
well
that.
done.
It is brutal.
That it feels like it's, you know, it's serving a purpose.
Yeah, it doesn't feel salacious
like
or
it's
just
brutal to underline the nastiness of the people or whatever it may be.
Or just how, because actually it's not necessarily even the horrible characters that are committing these things. It's just quite sort of necessary, if that makes sense. But in this hyper real sort of superhero world, I guess the kinds of violence that you can commit if you have superpowers are kind of exaggerated, and basically. Get on Amazon Prime and watch it because it's brilliant. I loved it.
The danger is, I think, when you have like too much sex and violence and a thing, it just goes. Are you trying to be edgy? Is that what it's about? And after a certain age, like why do you think edgy is a good thing to try and be? Grow up. You know, like what's good about edgy, really? But with Garth Ennis, although it has all those things, it always seems like it serves a purpose, and the writing is so good, and it's like funny and whatever, and those qualities have translated to this TV show.
And it is actually like sometimes with that, it's just a bit two-dimensional. It's just a bit like this character is just brutal or whatever, but actually. Like I say, the writing is so good. I think all of the characters are really well written, and I find myself wanting to know more about all of them.
I might be repeating myself, but it doesn't feel like shop's sake.
I'd agree.
I tell you what, I hope if they do a season 2, we find out more about Black Noir.
I'm loving Black Noir.
Yeah, he's great.
Very mysterious.
Old Black.
Yeah, Black.
As they call him if you can't speak French.
But yeah, so. Yeah, I just can't recommend it highly enough. As long as you are okay with, because actually, if you're one of those people who really likes the stories but just can't stand blood or gore, it ain't for you, unfortunately. Because if you cut it out, because even if you look away, the sounds with some of it are a bit, and even if you just know what's happening and you're not looking, it's still pretty grim. So yeah, I unless you don't have the stomach for it. Other than that, everybody should watch it because it's really, really good. So we should talk about some real world stuff.
I've got some real world stuff to talk about.
If we do your real world stuff, because then I can end on a slightly good-ish bit of news. I think. Well, I don't know if yours is good, but
well. Also, I should say, before we start real world stuff, I just want to quickly mention we did another quiz.
Oh, yeah, we
today,
did. Yeah.
That my parents actually curated.
We've mentioned before we do a weekly sort of virtual pub quiz.
For the most part, we enjoyed it. But at one point, you did say, this is your fault. Because they're your family.
They're your family, this is your fault.
Yeah.
So, in case your family happened to watch this, there was a round on transport. Like...
Guys...
I don't know fuck all about transport. So yeah, it wasn't just because your dad particularly, but your parents are sort of model and miniature train enthusiasts. So I was expecting there to be a lot of railway and train based stuff. It wasn't all trains, thankfully, because I would have literally got
a few trains
and
a few canal.
They were quite canal-y,
and they also like canals.
But there was also a few like motorways, and I was just like, I don't know, guys, I just don't know. I was really pleased though, because actually the 2 canal questions I got right.
Oh.
Who knew that I knew stuff about canals? They were probably well-known facts about canals, but basically, I will take a victory where I get it. But yeah, we did not do well overall. But actually, it did lead to sort of quite what could have been quite a cute or sickening conversation. But there was one round that was just anagrams of countries. And we had that given to us at the start to work on throughout the whole evening. And I was like a dog with a bone because I knew we were doing so badly on all the rest of it. And with an anagram, like, I should be able to work it out. So it's not like you either know it or you don't know. You can sort of sit there and work on it. All I did, I was sat like, oh god, and I was sat there, and then like I could see that you had switched off by this point, and you were just doing other stuff.
I did not.
You
want
were
to
on
engage.
What Culture,
I
reading
did not
wrestling
want to
stuff.
engage with anagrams.
And so I was there, and I was just going like, you're gonna just relax. Then we're definitely not gonna win. Just relax. I'm like, well, I can't give up. And so I'm sat there, and I'm going, and then I just sort of had a bit of a moment of clarity, and I went, I hope I don't like suck all the fun out of everything by taking it too seriously, do I? And he just went, I hope you don't mind that I might ruin the fun by not taking anything seriously, do I? And I was like, as long as you don't mind, I don't mind.
Okay,
deal. Deal. Because yeah, I am a bit like, if I just don't know, I don't care. But if I should know or I can't remember something, it really bugs me.
I think sometimes like that's why if there's a quiz team and there's like 4 or 5 of you, then if you're the sort of person that really wants to kind of
I can work on that.
and it's bugging me, I want to discuss this and whatever, you can do it. And if you're the sort of person that just wants to go, do you know what?
Don't know, I'm gonna have a pint.
I don't know, I'm gonna opt out, I'm gonna drink my drink. Then you can do that. And but if it's just 2 of you and you have very different approaches, then it can be a bit. But
it can be a disconnect, but we have fun.
Yeah, we do. We do.
I do enjoy it, but yeah, I did get all of the anagrams in the end, but literally, like there was 12, and I think the last 5, I got in the last 5 minutes because I was going, no, I'm gonna run out of time, I've got to get them, because I'm not very good at anagrams either, and I knew that most people, because there was enough time that most people were probably gonna get them, so.
I've done an unusual amount of research about
I've done
story
none. Actually,
from
no, I have
today's
done a little
news,
bit.
which means I will be.
Do tell.
And people who watch this regularly will know that when I actually bother to do research,
when it looks like he's looking at his crotch, he's looking at his phone.
I have to check my notes because I don't ever remember any of the details. But have you heard of remdesivir?
I have heard the phrase. I think it's a drug.
Yes, you're
That's
right.
all I know.
It's very possible I'm mispronouncing it, by the way, but it is one of only 2 drugs that are known to be effective in treating COVID-19.
Okay.
It helps people recover faster and gets them out of hospital quicker.
Okay, good. Sounds good.
Patented by a company called Gilead.
Oh, okay. That already doesn't sound good because I think of The Handmaid's Tale when I think of Gilead.
Okay. I don't understand the reference.
I'll explain later.
Yes. And so Gilead, they've patented it, which basically means they're the only people who are allowed
to make it
that
formula.
At least in kind of wealthy countries, there are certain places in the world where they kind of don't acknowledge the patents.
Right, okay.
And we'll get to why that is important in a bit. But basically...
Oh, I bet they're charging a fuck ton for it, aren't they?
Well, it's not so much that. It's more the fact that the US government, they've sent out a certain number of trial samples, and all of those have been used up already. And now the US government has bought 500,000 doses or whatever from them, which is their entire manufacturing supply for July, and 90% of their supply for August and September.
Right.
Which means basically for the next 3 months,
no other countries are going to be able to have access to this drug.
Exactly.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
So the US will have all of this.
But does sound like they are probably going to be the ones that need it the most, because their handling of this, unbelievably, because actually I think the last time we sort of went into sort of how the countries were doing and things, we were actually the worst per capita for deaths per million in the world. We are not anymore. We've dropped down to sort of 4 or 5, I think. But that's only due to other countries doing even worse than us. That's not that we've suddenly been doing loads better. It's just other countries have caught up, and then then gone further ahead. But America, as far as I'm aware, is the only country whose graph is like sort of went up as everybody's did, and then it sort of started to go down as sort of lockdowns were put in place, and then have had a few little blips along the way, but are still going down. America's is not only going back up, it's basically around about where it was at the peak, and it's still very much looking like it is steeply increasing.
Right. Well, they've basically opened everything
they didn't
back
finish
up again.
their first wave. And essentially, there was a brief blip where they closed some stuff down and it slowed it down. But essentially, they are going so badly wrong because so many states basically implemented such a piss poor lockdown that was just optional or kind of not enforced. There was sort of a very weak national lockdown where I think the instructions were that non-essential businesses had to close, similar to ours, very quickly. Basically, I think Trump said, now I'm going to leave it up to individual states to make the decision, essentially so that it won't look bad on him when it all goes wrong, but that's not how you should really run your country. But yeah, now their rates are shocking, absolutely shocking. And it's still increasing. They're looking like they are still very much in the exponential growth stage. And considering like what the graph looks like, where it's sort of only gone down by a bit and then it's sharply increasing again, to get that in control, where it's going to be on the graph is going to be scary territory. I hope to God in that time where they were doing these piss poor lockdowns, they were like kitting out field hospitals and supplying their hospitals and sort of making sure that they've got capacity, because I think their numbers are going to look shocking. Well, they already are. They're in like the richest nation in the world. Surely you'd think, well, this is the nation that can best afford to deal with a national lockdown and actually close everything down properly and literally just do handouts to keep everyone in, so that then you can get a handle on it and then reopen when it's under control. But basically, any pressure from any money maker, it's peak capitalism, isn't it? Just like the lives don't matter, the money does. And I think the scenes that we will see there are going to be devastating.
And not to say that we're in the same boat or to be alarmist or negative at all, but I do think, if we can learn a lesson from it, it's that, great things are starting to open up again here, but we still need to behave responsibly as a country or as individuals, because things can go.
It does worry me that you hear people saying things are going back to normal, and I know we're way off back to normal. We are just, certain places are allowed to open, and I think it's dangerous when people think that's done with now, or I've done it for a while, I can stop now. Like with our, just as a small example, but with our weekly street parties, this week's one is going to be the last one. And the reason being given for that, it's fair enough, because the lady who does it entirely voluntarily anyway. But she said, the kids are back in school, most people are back in work, now that things are back to normal, we'll do one big one to end the lockdown thing. And I'm just there thinking to myself, my lockdown ain't ended. And actually, I don't know because this end to lockdown is going to be so staggered, I don't know what landmark we will be able to use as the end of our lockdown vlog, because if it's everything's back to normal, that might be never. So maybe us both being back at work outside of the house might need to be the end of lockdown, I guess.
Too busy to do it anymore. Maybe it becomes a wedding planning vlog.
Yeah. Maybe we do those like 2 or 3 times a week rather than every day.
Yeah.
Because I lose my mind.
Well, apart from anything else, we do not want to have to do wedding planning every day, just so we have half an hour's worth of it to talk about.
Oh, I should tell them about my lovely little landmark I had, though. Lovely little landmark.
Oh, fun.
Last night, first anxiety dream about wedding. First of many, no doubt. But yeah, like I don't actually have anxiety dreams that often. But you know, typical anxiety dreams where you're just trying your best, but things keep going wrong, and you just keep trying. It's usually, for me, it's usually that I'm going to be late for something, and then I keep getting delayed. But then I keep sort of looking at the time. It's like, oh, I can nearly make it if I hurry, and then something gets in the way, and it's like, oh no, I can still nearly make it, and it's just that over and over again. But this one was just things constantly going wrong at the wedding. And me trying to fix them, but then something else went wrong, and then me trying to fix it, and then something else went wrong, and it was just like, oh God, I don't want this to be the thing. Like, this shouldn't be the thing. But that's just a problem with my psyche, so we're just gonna have to live with that.
But I tell you what, talking of things that might give you anxiety dreams, let's get back to remdesivir and that situation, because, obviously the US stockpiling all this, and they may well need it the most, but it does mean that no one else in the world can get these things. And obviously, if we had access to it, it would get people out of hospitals sooner. It would mean there was less strain on the NHS. All these sort of things.
Could the company Gilead not just give the formula to other companies and have to be paid for the formula in order so that other companies can make it?
Take a royalty or something.
Because if it's global pandemic, surely it is actually going to be like, well, there's a market for it. There's a huge market for it. And if you can't make it yourself, then at least you'll be literally saving the world and you'll be making some moolah.
Yeah, like license it out and take a royalty. I don't know how that would work.
I don't know how it works with Big
Pharma.
Pharma.
It seems like a good idea to me. In the meantime, though, there are wider kind of implications, because it's not just this drug. Obviously, then the suggestion or the implication is, well, what if there's a vaccine at some point? And the US just go, right, well, we're gonna
deal with our people first,
all of it, and strike a deal, and then
that should be illegal by international law, as far as I'm concerned, because essentially it's worse for the entire world if any one country has a monopoly on a life-saving drug. Because surely all governments should be able to see that ultimately life of the human population should come before profit.
Well, it would be nice if, like, given that this is a global pandemic and this is unprecedented, that they weren't quite so isolationist and kind of tried to think of everyone else in this.
Trump's at the helm, mate. Like, with Trump at the helm, no moral decisions will be made. They will all be money decisions.
As well as kind of grabbing all of this drug for themselves, they've also, the Trump administration have invoked the Defense Production Act, which stops certain companies producing drugs from shipping their product overseas.
So they're just keeping all of the drugs then?
So they want all their drugs, and they want everyone else's drugs. And as I say, you know, there is a concern about them maybe trying to get all of a vaccine for themselves. Now, in May, the French manufacturer Sanofi, they said that the US would get first access to the vaccine that they're developing, assuming it, you know, works. They did later backtrack under pressure from the French government.
Right.
So, I mean, maybe France will get priority because they're a French company.
Well,
I don't know.
I do recall that actually with one of the early vaccine studies that was going on, I think in combination between Oxford University and Imperial College London, the sort of pharmaceutical company that was involved in those things basically said because they were being manufactured and had grants from the British government, I think they said a certain percentage, and I think it was, or it might have been a certain money amount, would go, a number of vaccines would go, and I think it was 30 million that they said would go to the British populace before we do to anyone else, or like they would have that share. Because I remember saying in the vlog, and this was weeks and weeks ago, but it was, that's great, but there's 67 million of us. But like, I guess, like, at least if you go, right, the country that creates it, I get that, they should get first dibs, particularly if they've funded the research. Like, fair enough. But it shouldn't be that only that country is allowed to make it, because people will die. Like,
and yeah,
people are going to die anyway. They are already dying in their hundreds of thousands. The global death toll has exceeded 500 million now. So
there can be
good work, guys.
There is going to be a limit to like how quickly and how much they can manufacture any of these things, and like regardless of your population, you know, there isn't necessarily going to be enough to kind of serve everybody. I guess like
you'd go for the high risk people first,
but
and then
certainly it would be good to know that something will be coming our way, rather than the US getting all of everything. What could happen if we are really desperate for this drug? The UK government could invoke a compulsory license to kind of go to like Bangladesh or India, places where
they don't
they don't
all right.
acknowledge the patent
Right.
and get the drug made that way. I will tell you though that in the past the British government has never done that. They uphold the patents of pharmaceutical companies because of the argument that um, we need the pharmaceutical companies would argue we need a monopoly on this product to kind of recoup all the money we've put into research and development.
I think, although I guess actually, if literally it was the position that hundreds of thousands of people are dying here and the states have got it and won't give it, then I think the pressure, if there is sort of a thing that you can do, is just go, okay, well, we'll have to essentially absolutely annihilate our alliance with the states, but save our population.
I don't know that would even annihilate our alliance with the states. It would just piss off that company, right? Because as long as the states have got the drug, they don't really care if we're getting some more from Bangladesh.
I guess I don't know. Because I guess if that company that is an American company can't possibly make additional money from us. I don't even know
if they are an American company. I just know that...
I think Gilead are.
Okay.
Anyway, I think that might be why actually Margaret Atwood used. Well, it's got religious connotations as well, but I wouldn't be surprised if she sort of was aware of the Big Pharma connotations with the name Gilead.
What?
The country basically that's been set up as a state in The Handmaid's Tale is called Gilead, and it is a sort of hyper religious, women oppressing. It's I'm gonna make you watch it. It's so good. It's a really good book. But we have waffled for too long.
What I was going to say is although traditionally the British government hasn't used these compulsory orders to kind of ignore patents and kind of get drugs made, this current government has in some places broken with tradition in terms of things like trying to illegally shut down Parliament and things. So if they were going to kind of break with tradition in this way, if it was a thing where we really needed this drug,
if there was money to be made, they might, but I think just for the lives to be saved, I don't know if they would.
No.
Particularly not to give lots of money
it's
to
good PR, though. Surely
another
saving
country.
Lives.
You'd think, but I don't think these guys give a shit about PR
I tell
at this
you
stage.
what, think of my reputation if I'd saved some lives.
Well, on that, like, this will be just like a nice little end note that is positive. In terms of bad PR, quite encouragingly, basically, I think all of the major polling companies in the States are predicting an absolutely crashing defeat for Trump. To the extent, because of the perceptions of how he's handled both the Black Lives Matter issues and coronavirus, I think most people basically all of the sort of voters that he was relying on have left. So it's only really the really staunch Trump supporters that he's still got, and that's nowhere near enough for his victory. That would basically, he's come out typically going, fake news, don't listen to these pollsters. But actually, it seems to be that all of the major polling companies, which obviously they're not foolproof, but they're really so wrong as to sort of predict a crushing defeat and actually they win. It could be that they think you're going to win by loads and actually not as bad as that.
And they
but
probably
that's
would be
encouraging.
Able to exist as polling companies if they were getting things crashing
that wrong,
exactly.
All the time. So they are used as elements of propaganda because actually they have been used previously to sort of essentially make people very comfortable, and then people don't go out and vote, and actually they needed to. So it would be like, oh well, the turnout was low. So if the turnout, so basically the pollsters can sort of say, if the turnout had been what we expected to be, this would be the result. And then the fact that they've said that makes lots of people not go because they're comfortable that they're going to win, and then they go like, oh well, they would have if the turnout had been better. But yeah, it's that's encouraging. I hope he doesn't win, but unfortunately, I don't think that's till November. So he will be at the helm through all of this period, regardless. But actually, what was sort of said, and admittedly, this was a Fox News source, but it's been reported fairly widely. But an insider in Fox News had a source that said he would rather pull out of the race than lose by a crushing defeat. So there is the possibility that if the polls continue in this way, he will actually step down. And they will put forward another Republican candidate to run against Joe Biden, which would be unprecedented at this stage in the race, because obviously he's already been doing his rallies. There would be nobody that they're saying, oh, right, oh, instead of him. But actually they would have to swing to a very different candidate, I think. Someone who's not so associated with all of this shit.
It'll be interesting because obviously Donald Trump seems to have been an absolute catastrophe as president. But there's also that kind of thing you hear people say of like, well, actually, the deputy, you know, it is kind of, what's the word? It is kind of second in command.
Yeah.
It's actually more dangerous because if Trump would suddenly have to stand down because he's.
Is it Mike Pence? Is his
Mike
second?
Pence. So
Yes.
he's actually really clever and smart and knows how politics works a lot better.
Donald
and
Trump
actually
is
do
just
more
an
damage
imbecile.
as a
An
smart Republican.
egomaniacal imbecile, but Mike Pence might actually be truly dangerous. But we better leave that there. But hopefully Donald Trump will be out of it, and maybe Mike Pence will be too tired by what's gone on with coronavirus as well.
Too tired.
Or maybe you get the Rona. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen between now and then? But I would be glad to see almost anyone else at the helm in the States than Donald Trump. He is as you say, walking catastrophe. So it would be good. That would be one little shining light. But now that I've said that, I'm sure 2020 has got other plans. Yeah. But hopefully it's not Trump. Anyway, so we'll leave it there. I did actually have a couple of vaguely positive stories to go to, and they are only vaguely positive, but I'll come to them tomorrow because they're to do with some stats and some numbers.
Give us something to look forward to.
Look forward to something vaguely positive.
Yes. Fun with statistics.
Hey! All right, bye guys.
Bye.
Like and subscribe. She's off. Like and subscribe. There's no shame in it.